Before we dive in, a quick but important note. I am not a financial advisor, and this video does not constitute financial advice. The information provided in this presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. Every business is unique, and you should always conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any significant investment decisions for your company. Okay, let's get into it. Buying a brand new $10,000 Xerox machine in 2026 might be the single smartest, most profitable decision your American business makes all year. I know that sounds crazy. In an age of cloud storage, digital signatures, and project management software, telling you to invest in a big box that spits out paper feels like advising a tech startup to invest in a new fleet of filing cabinets. We've been promised the paperless office for over 20 years. It's the future, we're told. It's clean, it's green, it's efficient. And any business still chained to a printer, let alone a giant multifunction behemoth, is a dinosaur waiting for the asteroid. But what if that's a lie? Or, at least, a dangerous oversimplification? What if the relentless Silicon Valley-fueled push to go 100% digital is actually costing your business thousands of dollars in hidden fees, lost productivity, and gaping security vulnerabilities you don't even know exist? In this video, we are going to pull back the curtain on one of the most misunderstood and deceptively critical pieces of office technology. We're not just going to answer the question, is a Xerox machine a smart investment? We're going to give you a bulletproof framework to determine the exact right document management strategy for your specific business, right now. By the end of this series, you will know precisely how to stop bleeding money on ink, how to secure your most sensitive documents from prying eyes, and how to make a decision that will either save or sink your operational budget for the next 5 years. Let's talk about reality. The paperless office is a myth for about 90% of small to medium-sized businesses in the United States. It's a fantastic goal, a noble ideal, but it's not the reality on the ground. Not for the law firm in Chicago that needs to print, sign, and courier physical contracts to close a deal. Not for the marketing agency in Los Angeles that needs to produce high-fidelity color proofs for a client who can't judge color saturation on a poorly calibrated iPad screen. Not for the construction company in Texas that needs to print large-format blueprints for the job site where Wi-Fi is a fantasy. And certainly not for the HR department that has to process a mountain of physical I-9 forms and identification documents for every new hire, as required by federal law. The truth is, paper is still a massive part of American business. A 2022 study showed that the average U.S. office worker still uses about 10,000 sheets of paper per year. 10,000. And a huge portion of that paper, invoices, contracts, reports, personnel files, is mission critical. The problem isn't paper itself. The problem is how we're managing it. And the solution most businesses have stumbled into is an absolute nightmare. Let me paint you a picture. See if this sounds familiar. Meet Jennifer. She runs a small but successful accounting firm with 12 employees. She's smart, tech-savvy, and she believed in the paperless dream. She got rid of her old leased copier years ago, declaring it an obsolete relic. Her strategy? Go lean. She bought 4 different models of consumer-grade all-in-one inkjet printers from the local big box store. One for the partners area, one for the junior accountants, one for the admin desk, and a color one for marketing materials. On the surface, it seemed brilliant. No big upfront cost, no scary 5-year lease. She was saving money, or so she thought. Fast forward 2 years. Jennifer's office is in a state of quiet chaos. The first circle of hell is what her staff calls the ink cartridge crisis. The printers are constantly running out of ink, always at the worst possible moment, like 10 minutes before a client presentation. Her office manager spends hours a week on Amazon, trying to figure out which of the 7 different, ridiculously expensive cartridge models they need to order this time. The supply closet is a graveyard of half-used, mismatched ink cartridges. The total cost of ink for the year? Over $4,000. More than the cost of the printers themselves. Then there's the productivity drain. The printer in the junior accountant's area jams every other day. It's a cheap model, not designed for commercial volume. So now a highly paid CPA, whose billable hour is worth hundreds of dollars, is spending 20 minutes on their hands and knees with a flashlight, trying to fish out a crumpled piece of paper. The color printer refuses to connect to the Wi-Fi half the time, forcing the marketing coordinator to email documents to another computer just to get them to print. Every single day, precious minutes and hours are being vaporized by cheap, unreliable hardware. But the real bombshell, the problem that keeps Jennifer up at night, is security. Her team needs to scan sensitive client financial documents, tax returns, bank statements, social security numbers. With their current setup, the process is a security minefield. An employee scans a document, which is then sent as an unencrypted PDF to their own email. From there, they save it to a folder on the server. That's 3 different points of failure. What if they accidentally email it to the wrong person? What if their email gets hacked? What if they forget to delete the file from their sent folder? There's no tracking, no audit trail, no access control. They are one clumsy click away from a catastrophic data breach that could destroy their reputation and result in massive fines. Jennifer thought she was being frugal and modern by avoiding a big office machine. But in reality, she created a Frankenstein's monster of inefficiency, hidden costs, and terrifying security risks. Her attempt to save a few $100s a month on a lease has cost her thousands in supplies, lost wages, and potential liability. Her story isn't unique. It's playing out in millions of offices across the country. The seductive marketing of cheap and easy desktop printers has lured businesses into a trap. We've been conditioned to think of these multifunction office machines from brands like Xerox, Canon, or Ricoh as overpriced, old-fashioned luxuries. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if, instead of a glorified printer, we started thinking of it as a secure, centralized, highly efficient document management hub? That's the mental shift we need to make. This isn't about printing more. It's about controlling the entire life cycle of your most important documents, from creation and printing to scanning to secure digital archiving, and finally to secure shredding. A modern multifunction device is the physical nexus point where your digital and paper worlds collide. And if you don't control that intersection, you control nothing. Over the course of this series, we're going to dissect this problem piece by piece. We're going to put the true costs of ownership under a microscope, comparing Jennifer's chaotic setup to a centralized machine. We'll explore the monumental differences in security, moving from unsecured email attachments to encrypted, direct-to-folder scanning with user authentication. We'll dive into the world of leasing versus buying, exposing the common traps vendors set in their contracts, and giving you the exact questions you need to ask to protect your business. We'll talk about workflow automation and how a smart machine can do more than just copy and scan. It can digitize your invoices, sort your mail, and kickstart your internal processes with the press of a single button. This is your masterclass in modern office technology strategy. The goal here is to arm you with the knowledge to walk into a negotiation with a vendor, not as a confused customer, but as an expert who knows exactly what they need, what it should cost, and what pitfalls to avoid. The decision to invest in a machine like this, or to consciously avoid it, will have ripple effects across your entire organization. It will impact your budget, your team's productivity, and your company's security posture for years to come. Making the right choice is critical, and by the time we're done, you'll be ready to make it with total confidence. So let's start by rewinding the clock, because to understand if Xerox has a place in the office of 2026, you first have to understand why it dominated the office of 1966. And the story isn't just about a machine. It's about a revolution born from pure, mind-numbing frustration. Picture the American office before Xerox. It was a world of smudged ink and tedious labor. If you needed 10 copies of a 20-page report, you didn't just push a button. You had a few miserable options. You could hand your document to a typist, who would painstakingly retype the entire thing using carbon paper. A messy, unforgiving process where a single typo on the top sheet was multiplied 10 times over. Or you could use a mimeograph machine, a clunky device that involved stencils, chemical-soaked rollers, and a distinct, dizzying smell that clung to your clothes for hours. Getting a clean, sharp copy was an art form, and getting it quickly was a fantasy. Information moved at a snail's pace. Ideas were trapped on a single sheet of paper. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a bottleneck, choking the flow of business, law, and innovation itself. In a small, dusty patent office in New York, a man named Chester Carlson was living this nightmare every single day. He was a patent attorney, a job that required him to make countless copies of detailed drawings and specifications. He suffered from arthritis, which made the physical labor of copying excruciating. He saw the inefficiency, the waste, the sheer drudgery of it all, and he became obsessed with finding a better way. He wasn't a corporate titan or a trained physicist. He was a tinkerer, a problem solver, working out of his home kitchen, which he'd converted into a makeshift laboratory. He dove into the obscure field of photoconductivity, the idea that certain materials conduct electricity better when exposed to light. He believed he could use light to create an image, static electricity to transfer it, and heat to fuse it onto a piece of paper. No ink, no stencils, no mess. For years, the world told him he was crazy. He was rejected by more than 20 major companies, including giants like IBM and General Electric. They saw his idea as impractical, too complex, with no real market. But Carlson persisted. And then, on October 22, 1938, in a rented room in Astoria, Queens, he and his assistant made history. Carlson wrote October 22, 38 Astoria, in ink on a glass slide. They charged a sulfur-coated zinc plate with static, pressed the slide against it, and flooded it with bright light. They then dusted the plate with lycopodium powder, a fine yellowish dust made from club moss spores. When they blew away the excess, the words remained, held by the static charge. They carefully pressed a piece of wax paper onto the plate, heated it, and peeled it back. There it was. Perfect dry copy. The world's first xerographic image. The process was clunky, it was messy, and it took place in a rented back room, but it was magic. It was the spark. That spark took another 2 decades to become a fire. After years of refinement and a partnership with a small photopaper company called Haloid, the revolution was finally ready. In 1959, they launched the Xerox 914. It was the size of a baby grand piano, weighed 650 pounds, and had a tendency to occasionally catch fire. But it could do something no other machine in the world could do easily. Make 7 high-quality copies a minute on plain, ordinary paper, with the push of a single green button. It was so simple, they ran a now-famous TV commercial showing a little girl making perfect copies for her father. The message was clear. Anyone can do this. Haloid, by the way, changed its name to reflect its star product. They became the Xerox Corporation. They didn't sell the 914, they leased it. $495 a month, plus a few cents per copy, any office could have one. It was a stroke of genius. Companies didn't need massive upfront capital. They could just start copying. And they did. The demand was astronomical. Xerox had projected they'd sell a few thousand units. They sold over 200,000. The word copy was replaced by a new verb. To Xerox. Can you Xerox this for me? Became a standard phrase in every office across America. The machine changed the very rhythm of business. Memos could be distributed instantly. Reports could be shared widely. Lawyers could duplicate evidence. Architects could copy blueprints. Information wasn't a precious, singular artifact anymore. It was fluid. It was shareable. Xerox wasn't just selling a machine. They were selling speed, efficiency, and the democratization of knowledge within an organization. They had created an entirely new market and they owned it completely. For nearly 2 decades, they were a monopoly in the truest sense of the word. They were untouchable. But here's where the story takes a fascinating and critical turn for our conversation today. As Xerox was printing money from its copier division, it was also quietly inventing the future in a research lab 3,000 miles away in Palo Alto, California. It was called PARC, the Palo Alto Research Center. In the 1970s, Xerox PARC was the single most innovative place on the planet. They gathered the brightest minds in computer science and essentially told them to build the office of the future. And they did. The scientists at PARC invented almost every single foundational element of modern personal computing. The graphical user interface, or GUI, with its windows, icons, and pop-up menus, that was PARC. The computer mouse you're probably holding right now, PARC. The laser printer, PARC. Ethernet, the technology that connects nearly every office computer to a network, that was PARC too. They created the first truly personal computer, the Xerox Alto, which looked and felt shockingly similar to the computers we use today. They had built the digital world. But the executives back on the East Coast, comfortable with the massive, predictable profits from their copier empire, didn't understand what they had. They were a copier company. They sold big, reliable machines that printed on paper. This new world of personal computers, of digital documents and networks, seemed like a niche, a distraction from their core business. They saw the Alto not as a revolution, but as a potential office of the future product that might one day be worth exploring. They infamously allowed a young Steve Jobs and his team from a tiny startup called Apple to visit PARC in 1979. Jobs saw the graphical interface and the mouse, and he immediately understood what Xerox's own leadership could not. This was the future of computing for everyone. Apple would go on to commercialize these ideas with the Macintosh, Microsoft would follow with Windows, And the personal computer revolution would happen, leaving its own inventors in the dust. This is the central paradox of Xerox. The company whose name is synonymous with the paper-based office is the very same company that created the tools to make that paper office obsolete. They fumbled the future. They had a 10-year head start on the rest of the world and failed to capitalize on their own revolutionary inventions. This history is not just a fun fact. It is absolutely essential to understanding the company's position today. It frames the entire debate. Can a company with such a deep-rooted identity in the physical world of paper and toner truly thrive, let alone lead, in the increasingly digital, cloud-based, and paperless world of 2026? It's a question of DNA. Has Xerox evolved from the company that missed the digital revolution, or is it still, at its core, the king of a fading paper empire? To answer that, we need to look at what happened next after the world they helped create began to pass them by. The world they helped create was moving at the speed of light, and Xerox, the company that once defined the future, was stuck in the past, driving a horse and buggy on a newly paved superhighway. Their fortress, built on a mountain of patents for xerography, was about to be besieged. For decades, those patents had been more than just legal documents. They were a license to print money. No one could touch them. If you wanted a plain paper copier, you went to Xerox. Period. But in the mid-1970s, the unthinkable happened. Those patents began to expire. The walls of the fortress began to crumble, and on the horizon, a new army was gathering. This wasn't an army of American rivals like IBM or Kodak. This threat came from across the Pacific. Companies like Canon, Ricoh, and Minolta in Japan had been watching Xerox for years. They studied their machines, their business model, their weaknesses. And they didn't decide to build a better Xerox machine. They decided to build a completely different one. Xerox machines of the era were behemoths. They were complex, expensive, and prone to breaking down. They were leased, not sold, and serviced by a massive, expensive in-house army of technicians. Xerox saw themselves as selling a complete, high-end document solution. The Japanese competitors saw an opportunity. They asked a simple question: what if we just make a small, simple, reliable machine that just makes copies? And what if we sell it instead of leasing it? And what if we sell it for a fraction of the price? It was a fundamentally different philosophy. Xerox was playing chess, the Japanese were playing Go. While Xerox was focused on protecting its queen, the high-end, high-margin corporate market, the Japanese companies started placing their stones all over the board. They targeted small businesses, schools, and law offices, customers Xerox had largely ignored. Their machines were sold through independent dealer networks, not a massive direct sales force, which slashed overhead. Canon, in particular, was relentless. They engineered their machines for reliability and simplicity. They used disposable cartridges that contained the most sensitive parts, meaning a service call was often as simple as swapping out a plastic box. To Xerox, sitting in its corporate headquarters in Rochester, New York, these little Japanese machines looked like toys. They were slow. The quality wasn't as good. They couldn't collate or staple. It was corporate arrogance of the highest order. They failed to see that good enough at a much lower price is a lethal business strategy. By the time Xerox realized the threat was real, it was almost too late. Their market share, which was once nearly 100%, plummeted. By the early 1980s, it had fallen below 50% and was still in freefall. They were losing their own game. Their manufacturing costs were bloated. Their designs were over-engineered. Their sales cycle was too long. The giant was bleeding, and the sharks were circling. This is where the story could have ended. Another great American company, a titan of industry, brought to its knees by nimbler foreign competition. But it didn't end there. In 1982, a new CEO named David Kearns took the helm, and he knew the company was facing an existential crisis. He did something that was, at the time, radical. He admitted that Xerox was being beaten, and he set out to understand why. He initiated a program that would become a legendary case study in business schools: leadership through quality. It wasn't just a fancy slogan. It was a corporate soul-searching. Xerox began a process of competitive benchmarking. They tore apart their competitors' machines piece by piece. They studied their manufacturing processes, their supply chains, their pricing structures. And what they found was horrifying. The Japanese weren't just a little better. They were orders of magnitude better. Xerox discovered their Japanese rivals were producing machines with half the number of defects, in half the time, with half the number of people, and at half the cost. It was a brutal, humbling realization. But instead of giving up, Xerox decided to fight back. They declared war on their own inefficiency. They completely re-engineered their entire development and manufacturing process. They empowered their employees on the factory floor to stop the assembly line if they saw a problem, a concept borrowed directly from Japanese manufacturing. They flattened their bloated management structure. They set a goal to cut their manufacturing costs in half and dramatically improve quality. And incredibly, it worked. Over the next decade, Xerox clawed its way back from the brink. They launched new, more competitive products. They won back market share. In 1989, they won the prestigious Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, a symbol of their stunning turnaround. They had faced the enemy, and the enemy was them. They had looked into the abyss and pulled themselves back. They had learned to compete in the world of paper and toner once again. But here's the tragic irony. While Xerox was engaged in a life-or-death struggle to fix its core business, the copier business, the world was changing again. The digital tsunami that had been born inside their own Park facility decades earlier was now about to crash over the entire industry. The personal computer wasn't a novelty anymore. It was becoming the central nervous system of the American office. And with the PC came the printer. Suddenly, the question wasn't just, how do I make a copy of this document? It was, how do I get this document out of my computer and onto a piece of paper? This was a world that companies like Hewlett-Packard understood intimately. HP was a Silicon Valley company, born from the same culture as Apple and Intel. They understood software, networks, and peripherals. They launched the LaserJet in 1984, and it was a revolution. It was a high-quality, affordable desktop printer that did for printing what Canon had done for copying. Xerox was caught flat-footed. Again, all that energy they had spent on fixing their analog copier business had left them blind to the digital shift. They were still thinking in terms of big, centralized machines. The world was moving towards distributed desktop devices. Their attempts to enter the digital space were clumsy and incredibly expensive. They had tried to commercialize the technology from Park with the Xerox Star 8010 workstation in 1981. It was a visionary machine with a graphical user interface, a mouse, and Ethernet networking. It was, for all intents and purposes, the blueprint for the modern computer. But it cost over $16,000, the equivalent of $50,000 today. It was a commercial disaster. They were selling a glimpse of the future at a price no one in the present could afford. Throughout the 90s, Xerox was playing a desperate game of catch-up. They knew the future was digital, but they were saddled with a legacy business model, a legacy sales force, and a legacy mindset. Their solution was to try and bolt digital features onto their existing giant copiers. They created the multifunction device, or MFD, a big box that could not only copy, but also print from the network, scan documents into digital files, and send faxes. They called it the Document Company, trying to reposition themselves as masters of both the physical and digital page. And for a while it seemed to work. Their big MFDs were powerful and became fixtures in large corporate offices. They were holding their ground in their traditional stronghold. But the ground itself was shaking. The shift to digital was more than just a technological change. It was a cultural one. The value was moving away from the hardware, the big iron box in the corner, and towards the software and services that managed the flow of information. The very idea of a paper-centric office was beginning to seem antiquated. Xerox had survived the Japanese copier wars of the 80s by becoming a better version of its old self. But being the world's best buggy whip manufacturer is a losing proposition once the automobile arrives. They had won the battle, but they were in danger of losing the war for the future of the office. As the 20th century drew to a close, the company was a paradox, a celebrated turnaround story that was simultaneously on the verge of another, even more catastrophic collapse. They had fixed the quality of their products, but they hadn't fixed the fundamental flaw in their vision. And as the dot-com bubble inflated, an accounting scandal was quietly brewing inside Xerox that would threaten to wipe the legendary company off the map entirely. The deception was as simple as it was brilliant, and as devastating as it was elegant. It wasn't a case of executives stuffing cash into briefcases. This was far more insidious. It was a lie told on a balance sheet, a fiction crafted with accounting rules, designed to fool the most sophisticated investors on Wall Street. The scheme revolved around the very thing that made Xerox a giant: its long-term leases. When a company signed a 5-year lease for a big, expensive copier, Xerox was supposed to recognize that revenue incrementally year after year for 5 years. It's patient, predictable, and honest accounting. But in the hyper-caffeinated frenzy of the late 90s, patience was a liability. Wall Street demanded explosive quarter-over-quarter growth, and Xerox, the old titan, was terrified of looking slow. So they started playing a game with time. Instead of booking 1 year's worth of revenue, they began pulling revenue from the future into the present. They'd take a massive chunk of that 5-year contract and declare it as income today. On paper, it looked like a sales miracle. Earnings reports glowed. The stock price held steady against the dot-com tidal wave. Executives got their bonuses. For a while, the illusion worked. They weren't just selling copiers. They were selling a story of robust health and digital age relevance. But it was a house of cards built on borrowed time. Every dollar of future revenue they pulled into the present was a dollar they couldn't earn tomorrow. They were creating a massive, invisible hole in their own future. A black hole of revenue that would one day have to be accounted for. The scheme was supercharged by side deals and complex adjustments. They would bundle the cost of supplies and financing into the initial equipment lease, allowing them to book even more revenue up front. They called it return on equity, a fancy term for what the Securities and Exchange Commission would later call a fraudulent scheme. The pressure from the top was immense. Meet the numbers, whatever it takes. And for 5 years, from 1997 to 2001, they did. While the world was distracted by Pets.com and the promise of a new digital economy, Xerox was quietly cooking its books on an industrial scale. But lies, especially financial ones, have a gravitational pull. They can't be sustained forever. And in 2000, as the dot-com bubble was hissing its last breath, the SEC launched an investigation. The house of cards began to tremble. When the truth finally came out, it was breathtaking. The company was forced to restate its earnings, admitting it had improperly booked over $6 billion in revenue. $6 billion. The market's reaction was swift and merciless. The stock, which had traded at over $60 a share, collapsed. It cratered to below $5. In a matter of months, more than $30 billion in shareholder value evaporated into thin air. Lifelong employees who had poured their life savings into company stock saw their retirement plans utterly decimated. The name Xerox, once a synonym for innovation and a gold standard blue-chip investment, was now synonymous with corporate fraud, mentioned in the same breath as Enron and WorldCom. The SEC slapped them with a $10 million fine, the largest of its kind at the time. But the financial penalty was nothing compared to the catastrophic destruction of the one asset a company can never buy back: trust. Xerox was on the brink of total collapse, teetering on the edge of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, drowning in $17 billion of debt. The legend was dying. And this is where the story should have ended. A once great American icon, brought down by its own hubris and greed, destined to be a cautionary tale in business school textbooks. But it didn't end there. Because in May of 2001, the board made a desperate last-ditch move. They bypassed the hotshot turnaround artists and Silicon Valley gurus. Instead, they turned to a woman who had spent her entire career at Xerox. A woman who had started in 1976 as a sales rep, selling copiers door-to-door in Boston. A woman who had never been a CEO, never been a CFO, and who, by her own admission, had to have someone explain the company's disastrous balance sheet to her. Her name was Mulcahy, and she had just been handed the keys to a sinking ship. The situation she inherited was apocalyptic. The company was burning through cash at a terrifying rate. Lenders were refusing to extend credit. Morale was non-existent. The SEC was crawling all over their books. Her own advisors told her the only option was to declare bankruptcy. But Mulcahy saw something else. She saw the grit of the engineers, the loyalty of the sales force, and the ghost of a great company that she refused to let die. Her first act as CEO wasn't to hide in a boardroom with accountants. It was an act of radical, terrifying honesty. She stood in front of Wall Street analysts and uttered a sentence that no CEO ever wants to say. Xerox's business model, she declared, is not sustainable. The shock was palpable, but it was the truth, and it was the first step toward rebuilding trust. She then embarked on a grueling worldwide listening tour. She met personally with the leaders of Xerox's top 100 accounts. She didn't send a deputy. She went herself. She sat in their offices, looked them in the eye, apologized for the company's failings, and begged them not to leave. She asked them what they needed, what Xerox had to do to keep their business. It was an act of profound humility, and it worked. Customers who were ready to jump ship saw a leader who was willing to take responsibility. They decided to give her a chance. But humility alone doesn't pay the bills. She had to make brutal, heart-wrenching decisions. She slashed costs, cutting over 30,000 jobs. She sold off non-essential assets for a quick infusion of cash. She got out of entire lines of business. The cuts were deep and painful, but there was one thing she refused to sacrifice, one area she protected with a vengeance: research and development. In the darkest days, when the company was weeks away from running out of money, financial advisors screamed at her to sell off the legendary Xerox PARC for a quick $1 billion. It was the logical move. It was the easy move. And she refused. Mulcahy understood something fundamental. You can't cut your way to greatness. Xerox was a technology company. Without PARC, without its pipeline of future innovation, it wasn't Xerox anymore. It would be a hollowed-out shell, and saving the company would be pointless if its soul was gone. This crucible of crisis forged the modern Xerox. The scandal and the near-death experience that followed was a brutal but necessary reset. It forced the company to shed the arrogance of its monopoly days and the deceit of its accounting fraud era. It had to look in the mirror and decide what it wanted to be. Under Mulcahy, it chose to be a company built not on financial tricks, but on technological innovation and a relentless focus on the customer. It became leaner, tougher, and more realistic about its place in the world. The company that survived was not the same one that entered the fire. It carried the scars, but it also carried the wisdom that only comes from staring into the abyss and choosing to fight your way back. This fight for survival defined its culture for the next decade. But an even bigger threat was looming. The world itself was changing. The very concept of the paper document, the sacred artifact upon which the entire Xerox empire was built, was now under attack. The fight to fix the balance sheet was over. The fight for relevance in a paperless world was just beginning. The digital world didn't arrive with a polite knock. It was a tsunami, a silent, overwhelming flood of ones and zeros that threatened to wash away everything Xerox had built. The late 90s and early 2000s were a graveyard for analog giants, and the headstone for every one of them read the same: failed to adapt. For Xerox, the threat was uniquely personal. The enemy wasn't just a new competitor. It was the death of their entire medium. The very idea of a paperless office, once a distant sci-fi fantasy, was now being preached from every corporate pulpit. Email attachments replaced interoffice memos. The PDF, a format that allowed perfect digital replication, became the new standard. Suddenly, the need to physically copy a document seemed archaic. Why print, walk, and copy when you could just click forward? This was an existential crisis on a scale few companies have ever faced. How do you sell a machine whose primary purpose is to create copies of paper in a world that wants to eliminate paper? Xerox's first move was a brilliant, if subtle, piece of marketing judo. They stopped calling themselves a copier company. They rebranded as the Document Company. It sounds simple, almost like corporate jargon, but it was a profound strategic shift. They were making a declaration. We are not about the paper itself. We are about the information on the paper. We manage the flow of knowledge, whether it's on a physical page or a digital screen. This was their attempt to climb out of the box they had built for themselves. They were no longer just selling a box that hummed in the corner. They were selling a solution to a much bigger problem: how to manage the explosion of information in the modern enterprise. And the flagship of this new strategy was a concept called Managed Print Services, or MPS. This was Xerox's secret weapon in the fight for relevance, and frankly, it was genius. They walked into Fortune 500 companies and said, "Look at this room. You have 50 printers from HP, 20 from Brother, 10 of our big machines, and a closet full of toner cartridges for models you don't even own anymore. Your IT department spends a third of its time fixing paper jams. You have no idea how much you're actually spending on printing. Let us take over." Xerox offered a deal. They would manage a company's entire fleet of printers and copiers, regardless of the brand. They would handle supplies, service, and maintenance, all for a predictable fixed cost per page. For the customer, the appeal was irresistible. It turned a chaotic, unpredictable capital expense into a simple, manageable operating expense. No more surprise repair bills. No more running out of ink during a critical print run. But for Xerox, it was a masterstroke. It accomplished three critical things. First, it created a recurring revenue stream, the holy grail of any business. Instead of a one-time sale every 5 to 7 years, they got a monthly check. Second, it deeply embedded Xerox within their clients' operations. They weren't just a vendor anymore. They were a partner, integrated into the daily workflow. And third, it gave them an incredible competitive advantage. Once Xerox was managing your entire print infrastructure, the odds of you switching to a competitor like Canon or Ricoh plummeted. The switching costs became enormous. They had built a moat. They were no longer just selling copiers, they were selling efficiency, predictability, and peace of mind. But this pivot to services wasn't happening fast enough. The hardware business, while still profitable, was in a slow, managed decline. To truly transform into a services-led behemoth, Xerox needed to make a move so big, so audacious, that it would shock Wall Street and redefine the company forever. And in 2010, under the leadership of CEO Ursula Burns, they found it. They placed a massive bet, acquiring Affiliated Computer Services, or ACS, for an eye-watering $6.4 billion. ACS was not a copier company. They weren't even a document company. They were a sprawling giant in the world of business process outsourcing, or BPO. If you've ever driven through an E-ZPass toll booth, processed a health insurance claim, or dealt with a student loan servicer, you've likely interacted with the systems ACS built and managed. They were the invisible plumbing of modern commerce and government. The vision was breathtakingly ambitious. Xerox would combine its mastery of documents with ACS' mastery of business processes. The new Xerox wouldn't just manage how you print an invoice. It would manage the entire life cycle of that invoice, from its digital creation, to its processing through your accounting system, to its final payment and archival. They could handle a company's mailroom, digitize all incoming documents, and route them through automated workflows that ACS had perfected. They could manage customer call centers, human resources, and financial operations. The goal was to become the ultimate back-office provider for the entire global economy. They weren't just the document company anymore. They were aiming to be the business services company. It was a monumental gamble to leapfrog the slow decline of paper and land directly in the high-growth, high-margin world of tech services. But integrating a $6.4 billion company with a completely different culture, business model, and customer base is a Herculean task. The clash was immediate. Xerox was a 100-year-old manufacturing and engineering firm from Rochester, New York. It was methodical, hardware-focused, and steeped in tradition. ACS was a nimble, fast-moving services organization from Dallas, Texas, built on software, call centers, and government contracts. The Xerox sales team, accustomed to selling and leasing million-dollar machines, was now expected to sell complex, multi-year outsourcing contracts for services they barely understood. The promised synergies proved incredibly elusive. Instead of creating a streamlined super company, the acquisition created a sprawling, confusing conglomerate. What was Xerox? Was it a copier company with a services arm, or a services company that happened to make copiers? No one, not the customers, not the investors, and perhaps not even the employees, seemed to know for sure. The weight of this identity crisis became too much to bear. The market was punishing Xerox's stock, viewing the combined company as less than the sum of its parts. The growth from the ACS services side was being dragged down by the slow decline of the traditional print business. Finally, in 2017, the company made a painful but necessary decision: surgically split itself in two. The entire business process outsourcing division, the legacy of the massive ACS acquisition, was spun off into a new independent public company called Conduit. The remaining entity would once again be just Xerox. It would retain the iconic name and the entire document technology business, including the hardware, the software, and the highly profitable managed print services. It was, in essence, a divorce, an admission that the grand experiment to become an all-encompassing business services empire had failed. Xerox was going back to its roots, but the world it returned to was even more hostile than the one it had tried to escape. Now leaner, more focused, but also smaller, this reborn Xerox had to face the brutal realities of the cloud, artificial intelligence, and a global pandemic that was about to send the very concept of the physical office into a tailspin. The fight for relevance wasn't over. It had just entered a new, more dangerous phase. And then, in March of 2020, the world stopped. The brutal reality of the pandemic wasn't a slow-moving glacier of change, it was a tidal wave. Overnight, office buildings across the United States became hollowed-out monuments to a bygone era. The bustling hum of commerce was replaced by an eerie silence. And at the heart of these empty cathedrals of work stood the Xerox machine, a powerful, expensive, and suddenly very lonely piece of equipment. Its vibrant touchscreen, once a flurry of activity, now reflected an empty room. Its purpose, its very reason for being, had been yanked out from under it. The office, the central nervous system of corporate America, had been decapitated, and its functions were now scattered across thousands, then millions of kitchen tables, spare bedrooms, and makeshift basement desks. This was the great unplanned experiment in remote work. And for businesses, it was chaos. The carefully constructed, centralized document workflows that had been refined over decades shattered in an instant. Suddenly, a sales contract wasn't being printed on the third-floor multifunction device, signed and scanned to legal. It was being printed on a 10-year-old Wi-Fi spotty HP DeskJet in a suburban living room, signed, and then what? The employee would take a blurry photo with their iPhone, try to use a flimsy free scanner app riddled with ads. The security, the quality control, the simple chain of custody that businesses took for granted, it all evaporated. This created a security nightmare of epic proportions. Sensitive financial reports, confidential HR documents, proprietary client data. All of it was now flowing through insecure home internet routers and being processed on personal devices. The risk of a data breach didn't just increase. It became a statistical certainty for many. IT departments who once patrolled the secure perimeter of the corporate network like sentinels were now fighting a thousand-front war, trying to secure countless remote endpoints, each a potential backdoor for cybercriminals. The humble act of printing had become a massive liability. A company's intellectual property was suddenly as vulnerable as the password an employee used for their home Wi-Fi, which was probably password 123. For Xerox, this was the ultimate existential threat. How do you sell or lease a $10,000 office hub to an office that no longer exists? Their entire business model was predicated on a physical gathering of people. But in crisis, there is opportunity. Xerox, a company that had stared into the abyss before, had to make a choice: become a relic or reinvent itself for this new distributed world. They chose to fight. The pivot was dramatic and it was fast. Xerox threw its weight not behind the box, but behind the cloud that connected all the new disparate boxes. They aggressively rebranded their offerings, shifting the focus from copiers and printers to workplace solutions and digital transformation services. The message changed from "here is a powerful machine for your office" to "we can secure and streamline your document workflow, no matter where your office is." They pushed their cloud-based software, like DocuShare, as a central secure repository for all company documents, accessible from anywhere. They introduced enhanced mobile printing solutions, allowing an employee to securely send a print job from their laptop at home to the office printer, ready to be released with a tap of their ID card the one day a week they came into the office. The Xerox machine was no longer positioned as a standalone island. It was being recast as a secure, intelligent on-ramp and off-ramp to the company's cloud infrastructure. You could walk up to the machine in the office, scan a stack of invoices, and have them instantly and securely appear in a shared folder, accessible to the accounting team working from 3 different states. The hardware became a physical gateway to the digital workspace. But the real game changer, the technology that truly represented their bid for future relevance, was the deep integration of artificial intelligence. This wasn't just a marketing buzzword. It was a fundamental change in what the machine could do. Xerox began rolling out what's known in the industry as Intelligent Document Processing, or IDP. Here's what that actually means. In the old days, a scanner was dumb. Created a picture of a document. That's it. An AI-powered Xerox machine, however, doesn't just see a picture. It reads and it understands. Imagine you're a small law firm. You receive a 100-page discovery document from opposing counsel. Instead of an assistant spending a full day manually reading through it to find every mention of a specific person's name or a key date, you could now place it in the feeder, and the machine's AI would scan, digitize, and automatically tag every instance of those keywords, creating a searchable index file in minutes. The value proposition just exploded. The machine wasn't just saving you a few cents on copies, it was saving you hundreds, even thousands of dollars in billable hours. Or think about an accounts payable department. An employee scans a pile of invoices. The old way, they'd then have to manually type the data from each invoice, vendor name, invoice number, amount, due date, into their accounting software. It's tedious, mind-numbing work, and a single typo could lead to a costly error. The new Xerox machine with AI does it for them. It recognizes the document as an invoice, intelligently extracts all the key information, validates it against existing records, and automatically populates the fields in QuickBooks or whatever system the company uses. It can even flag a duplicate invoice or an unusual amount for human review. The machine transformed from a simple utility into a powerful, automated administrative assistant. It was no longer about making copies, it was about eliminating the manual error-prone work that bogged businesses down. Xerox also leveraged AI for its own operations, offering services that were incredibly appealing to overburdened IT managers. Their new devices became self-monitoring. Using predictive analytics, the machine could analyze its own usage patterns and internal diagnostics to predict when a component was likely to fail before it actually broke. It could detect when toner was running low and automatically order a replacement to arrive just in time. This eliminated downtime. For a busy logistics company or a hospital that can't afford to have a machine go down, that proactive, always-on service is immensely valuable. So Xerox was building a compelling case. They were adapting to the hybrid work model, solving critical security problems, and integrating cutting-edge AI to deliver real, tangible value that went far beyond printing. They were trying to make their machine the indispensable heart of the new digitally connected office. But a crucial, nagging question remained. Was it enough? The pandemic didn't just send people home. It fundamentally rewired our relationship with work and with paper. Millions of people and thousands of companies were forced, kicking and screaming, into a fully digital existence. They adopted tools like Slack, Asana, DocuSign, and Google Workspace not as a supplement, but as a replacement for old paper-based processes. They learned to collaborate on documents in real time online. They got used to digital signatures being the norm. The habit of walking to the printer was broken, and for many it was broken for good. Xerox was making a brilliant, technologically advanced argument for the relevance of a central office machine. But they were making it to a world that had just spent 2 years proving to itself that it could survive, and in some cases even thrive, without one. The most dangerous competitor Xerox now faced wasn't another hardware manufacturer like Canon or HP. It was inertia. It was the new paperless status quo. The comeback story was compelling, but the final chapter was far from written. The battle for the future of the American office was about to be decided not by technology alone, but by human behavior. And that's the crux of it. Human behavior. We can build the most elegant, seamless digital systems in the world, but they are ultimately used by messy, unpredictable, and wonderfully analog human beings. For decades, the tech industry's solution was to force the human to adapt to the machine. Click here, drag this, update that. But what if the most successful technology wasn't the one that tried to change us, but the one that understood us? What if the key to the future of the office wasn't abandoning our old habits, but integrating them into a smarter system? Consider this: neuroscientists have shown time and again that our brains process information differently when we read it on paper versus on a screen. When you hold a report, you're not just seeing words, you're engaging multiple senses. The weight of the paper, the texture, the physical act of turning a page. This creates a kind of cognitive map. You remember that the key statistic was on the top left of a right-hand page, about a third of the way through the document. This spatial memory, this haptic feedback, is a powerful and deeply ingrained learning tool. Screens, with their endless, scrolling, non-physical nature, flatten this experience. Information becomes ephemeral, a stream of pixels rather than a concrete object. Studies from universities around the world have found that reading comprehension and long-term retention are consistently higher with physical text. So when a lawyer needs to absorb every nuance of a complex brief, or an engineer needs to scrutinize a detailed schematic, the desire to print isn't a Luddite impulse. It's a cognitive enhancement strategy. It's a brain hack. Then there's the immutable power of trust. In an age of deepfakes, phishing scams, and digital forgery so sophisticated it can fool experts, the physical document has taken on a new significance. A digital signature is convenient, yes, but the act of putting pen to paper, of creating a physical artifact with a unique, uncopyable ink signature that carries a psychological weight that an e-signature simply cannot replicate, feels more deliberate, more binding, more real. When closing a multi-million-dollar deal, or signing the deed to a house, or executing a last will and testament, that feeling of permanence and security isn't a triviality. It's the entire point. The paper copy isn't just a backup. It's the gold standard of authenticity. It's the one thing you can hold in your hand and say, this is real. This happened. And what about creation? The genesis of ideas? Think about the most productive brainstorming sessions you've ever been a part of. Was everyone silently typing into a shared Google Doc? Or was there energy in the room? People standing, talking, gesturing? Was there a whiteboard covered in frantic scribbles, sticky notes being moved around, and large printouts of a design or a spreadsheet being marked up with red pens? Digital collaboration tools are fantastic for organization and remote work. But for that initial, chaotic, and glorious spark of collaborative creation, nothing has ever replaced the power of a shared physical space and shared physical media. The ability to print a large format draft, spread it across a table, and have 5 people attack it at once, pointing, sketching, and debating, that is a high bandwidth, multisensory, and uniquely human form of communication. The digital world is an echo of this process. The analog world is the process itself. This is the human reality that crashed head-on into the pandemic-driven dream of a fully remote, fully digital workplace. And the result wasn't the death of the office. It was its mutation into something new, the hybrid office. And this new environment created a logistical nightmare. Suddenly, you had Team A in the office huddled around a monitor while Team B was at home, squinting at the same document on their laptops. How do you bridge that gap? How do you ensure everyone has access to the same high-quality information, regardless of their physical location? The remote worker prints a 20-page contract on their flimsy home inkjet, struggles to scan it back in with their phone, and the resulting file is skewed, low resolution, and barely legible. The in-office team, meanwhile, needs a physical copy for their files, but the digital version is trapped in someone's email. The workflow breaks down. Friction, inefficiency, and frustration become the new normal. This is where the story of the Xerox machine takes its most unexpected turn, because the machine that was supposed to be a relic of the paper-based past suddenly became the most critical piece of infrastructure for the hybrid future. It was no longer a copier. It was a bridge, an on-ramp and an off-ramp for the company's data. It became the physical interface for the digital cloud. Let me tell you about a mid-sized architectural firm in Chicago. Let's call them Apex Designs. In 2021, they went all in on the digital-first model. They got rid of their big multifunction printer, invested in expensive dual-monitor setups for everyone, and subscribed to a dozen different cloud collaboration platforms. For a few months, it felt futuristic. But then the cracks started to show. Junior architects who learned by watching senior partners mark up physical blueprints were struggling to follow design changes on a shared screen. Collaboration sessions became awkward, with one person sharing their screen while everyone else passively watched. When they needed to present plans to a client or a city planning committee, they were running to Kinko's to get large format prints, a huge drain on time and money. Worst of all, a major version control error on a digital file nearly led to a catastrophic construction mistake, a mistake that would have been caught if the team had been reviewing a physical set of plans together. The managing partner, a woman who had built the firm from the ground up, realized they hadn't streamlined their process. They had broken it. They were fighting against their own instincts, against the very way designers are trained to think and create. So they made a counterintuitive decision. They brought a machine back in. But it wasn't the old copier they had before. It was a new generation Xerox Connect key device. And they didn't just plug it in, they rebuilt their entire workflow around it. It became the hub. A client emails a set of signed documents. An app on the device automatically routes it to the correct project folder in their cloud storage. The team needs to brainstorm a new floor plan. They print a massive 36-inch wide draft directly from their design software, spread it on the conference table, and spend 2 hours marking it up. At the end of the meeting, they walk the marked-up blueprint back to the device, lay it on the scanner, and with one tap, a high-resolution, perfectly cropped digital copy is sent to the entire team, including the remote workers, creating a perfect digital record of their analog collaboration. When they need to create client presentation booklets, the machine doesn't just print. It collates, hole punches, and even folds the pages into a professional-looking package. The machine wasn't a step backward. It was the missing link. It didn't chain them to paper. It gave them the freedom to use paper when it was the best tool for the job, and to seamlessly transition back to digital when that was the best tool. It solved the human behavior problem by empowering their team to work in the way that was most natural and effective for them. It bridged the gap between the physical and digital worlds, between the in-office team and the remote employees. Productivity soared, errors plummeted, and creativity, the lifeblood of their business, was finally uncorked from the bottle of digital-only frustration. Apex Designs learned that the question they should have been asking wasn't, how do we get rid of paper? It was, how do we master the flow of information in all its forms? They realized the investment wasn't in a machine that makes copies. The investment was in a workflow solution that acknowledged the complexities of human cognition, collaboration, and trust. They had solved their human behavior problem. They had solved their workflow problem. But in doing so, they stumbled upon a shocking financial truth about the so-called paperless office. A truth that most companies never even think to calculate. That truth was the staggering invisible cost of forcing a digital-only workflow onto a human workforce. See, when the leadership at Innovate Solutions looked at their budget, they saw the obvious paperless savings. They saw the line item for paper disappear. They saw the toner budget vanish. They saw the maintenance contract for their old copier go away. These were tangible, easy-to-see numbers on a spreadsheet. What they didn't see, what they couldn't see, was the colossal silent expense that had replaced it. Lost productivity. And it wasn't lost in big, obvious chunks. It was a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Or in this case, 1,000 clicks. The finance director, a sharp woman named Maria, decided to actually quantify it. She didn't trust the vague feeling that things were slower. She wanted data. So she and the IT lead ran a quiet 2-week study. They didn't tell everyone they were being timed, but they used analytics tools and observational studies to measure the time it took to complete common, everyday tasks in the new paperless system versus how long those same tasks used to take. The results were absolutely stunning. Take their legal department, reviewing a 70-page contract. Before, a paralegal would print it, spread it out, use different colored highlighters, and add sticky notes. They could cross-reference page 12 with page 65 just by looking. Total time for a thorough initial review: about 90 minutes. In the new digital system, that same paralegal was scrolling endlessly on a 27-inch monitor, clicking between windows, trying to use a clunky digital annotation tool, losing their place constantly. The cognitive load was immense. The new time for that same task? Over 2.5 hours. An extra hour wasted. Or look at the engineering team. They used to print out large format schematics and gather around a table, pencils in hand, pointing, sketching, and solving problems in real time. It was a fluid, collaborative dance. Now they were huddled around a single monitor, or worse, on a Zoom call trying to use a digital whiteboard that lagged and felt unnatural. A design review meeting that used to take 45 minutes was now stretching to 75, and everyone left feeling less certain about the outcome. That's 30 minutes lost, multiplied by 6 engineers. That's 3 hours of high-value employee time evaporated. Maria started putting these numbers into a spreadsheet. She called it the friction tax. It was the price they were paying for inefficient digital processes. She calculated the average loaded cost, the salary plus benefits of their employees, which came out to about $48 an hour. Then she started doing the math. The extra hour for the paralegal? That was a $48 friction tax on one contract. The extra 30 minutes for the 6 engineers? That was a $144 friction tax on one meeting. And this was happening everywhere. In accounting, where processing a batch of invoices now required clicking through dozens of PDF files, instead of quickly sorting a physical stack. In HR, where onboarding packets became a confusing maze of e-signature requests. In sales, where creating a custom proposal meant fighting with a buggy online template. Maria found that, on average, each of their 80 employees was losing just 20 minutes a day to this friction tax. It doesn't sound like much, does it? 20 minutes. You waste that much scrolling on your phone. But here's the terrifying math that most executives never do. 80 employees losing 20 minutes a day. That's 1,600 minutes of lost time, every single day. That's over 26 hours of paid productivity, vanishing into thin air. Every single day. At $48 an hour, Innovate Solutions was paying a daily friction tax of over $1,200. Per week, that was $6,000. Per month, it was over $25,000. Annually, they were burning over $300,000 in lost productivity. $300,000. All in pursuit of saving maybe $20,000 a year on paper and toner. They had stepped over a mountain of gold to pick up a penny. And that wasn't even the whole story. The $300,000 was just the cost of wasted time. It didn't account for the cost of the paperless software stack itself. They were paying for a premium e-signature service, an enterprise-level cloud storage plan, a new collaborative digital whiteboard app, advanced PDF editing software for 10 key employees. When they added up all those monthly subscriptions, it came to nearly $2,800 a month. That's over $33,000 a year, just for the software to not use paper. So their quest to save $20,000 a year was actually costing them over $333,000 in combined software fees and lost productivity. It was financial insanity hiding in plain sight. This is the moment the entire debate shifted for them. The question was no longer, how can we afford a new modern Xerox machine? The question became, how can we possibly afford not to? They brought in the new machine, a top-of-the-line multifunction device. The lease, including all service supplies and the advanced software that integrated it into their cloud drives, was about $950 a month. Let's be generous and say they spent another $500 a month on paper for a total of $1,450 a month. They were now spending $1,450 to solve a $25,000 a month problem. That's not an expense. That is one of the greatest returns on investment you will ever see in an office environment. It was a 17x ROI. The paralegals started printing contracts again, but now when they were done marking them up, they used the Scan to File feature, which automatically OCR'd the document, recognized the file name, and saved the fully searchable, annotated PDF right back into the correct client folder in the cloud. They got the tactile benefit of paper and the archival benefit of digital. Best of both worlds. The engineers printed their large format schematics for their meetings. They collaborated, sketched, and solved problems at lightning speed. Then the project lead would take the marked up drawing, lay it on the scanner, and in 30 seconds, a high-resolution digital copy was emailed to the entire team and saved to the project folder. No more taking blurry photos with a smartphone. The friction tax didn't drop to zero, but it plummeted. Maria reran her study a month after the new hybrid system was in place. The average daily time lost per employee had fallen from 20 minutes to less than 4. The company had reclaimed over $250,000 in annual productivity. And employee morale? It skyrocketed. People felt like they could finally do their jobs again. They weren't fighting their tools. Their tools were empowering them. The cost of replacing a burnt-out, frustrated employee is massive. By making their work lives easier, this new hybrid system was also a powerful tool for employee retention. So, Innovate Solutions had their answer. They had solved the human behavior puzzle. They had optimized their workflow. And they had stumbled upon a financial model that turned the entire paperless office ideology on its head. It seemed like a total unqualified victory. But as the leadership team celebrated this breakthrough, two massive looming questions emerged from the IT and compliance departments. Questions that could have derailed the entire project. What about the security risks of having sensitive documents lying around? And in an era of corporate responsibility, what about the environmental impact? They had a productivity solution, but did they just create a security nightmare and an environmental disaster? This is where the story of the office copier takes a dark turn. Because while businesses were celebrating this newfound efficiency, a silent crisis was unfolding right next to the water cooler. Two crises, actually. The first was a security professional's worst nightmare. Think about it. What kinds of documents get copied or printed in an office? Financial reports, employee performance reviews with salary information, confidential client strategies, legal contracts, medical records in a doctor's office. Every single one of these is a potential landmine if it falls into the wrong hands. And where did these documents end up? In a neat little tray in a public hallway for anyone to see. It was called the abandoned document problem. Someone would hit print on a sensitive HR report from their desk, walk over to the copier, get distracted by a conversation, grab a coffee, and completely forget they ever printed it. And there it sits. For hours. Sometimes days. An open invitation for corporate espionage or even just idle, damaging gossip. This wasn't some theoretical threat. Companies have faced multi-million-dollar lawsuits and crippling data breach fines, all because a single piece of paper was left in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it gets worse. Most people never realize that these sophisticated network copiers had hard drives inside them, just like a computer. Every document you scanned, every page you copied, it created a digital image that was stored on that hard drive. When a company's lease was up and they sent the machine back, they were often sending a treasure trove of their most sensitive data along with it. Data thieves knew this. They would buy up old, off-lease copiers for pennies on the dollar, not for the machine, but for the gold mine stored on its hard drive. It was a ticking time bomb. The second crisis was environmental. The dream of the paperless office, which computers were supposed to usher in, had become a joke. The copier was the engine of paper consumption, not its solution. We were using more paper than ever before. We were creating mountains of it. Forests were being cleared to feed these machines. And then there were the consumables. Those giant plastic toner cartridges. They were expensive, filled with fine, messy powder, and when they were empty, they were almost always thrown straight into the trash, where they would sit in a landfill for, quite literally, 1,000 years. Add to that the constant energy drain from these large machines, which were often left on 24/7, and the environmental footprint of the average office was becoming staggering. The very machine that was supposed to make the office smarter was making it more vulnerable and more wasteful. The copier had become a paradox, an indispensable tool that was simultaneously a massive liability. This is the point where the industry had to evolve or die. And it did. The response from Xerox and its competitors like Canon, Ricoh, and HP was to fundamentally transform the machine from a simple piece of hardware into a smart, secure, integrated platform. This is where the term multifunction device, or MFD, really starts to mean something. To solve the security nightmare, they introduced a concept that is now standard in almost any corporate office: secure print. The idea is brilliant in its simplicity. When you print a document, it doesn't actually print. It goes into a secure digital queue on a server. To release the document, you have to physically walk up to the machine and authenticate yourself. You might swipe an ID badge, enter a PIN code, or even use your fingerprint. Only when the machine knows it's you standing right there will it print your document. The abandoned document problem? Solved. Instantly. Then they tackled the hard drives. Modern MFDs now come standard with military-grade, 256-bit AES encryption. The data on that drive is completely unreadable to anyone without the right credentials. And when a document is deleted, or when the machine is retired, it's not just deleted. It undergoes a process of data shredding, overwriting the information multiple times with random characters, making it impossible to recover. The hard drive goes from being the machine's biggest vulnerability to a virtual fortress. They also added comprehensive tracking and auditing. Because users now had to log in to use the machine, a full record was kept. The system knew who copied what, who scanned what, and who printed what and when. This accountability was a powerful deterrent against internal misuse. To tackle the environmental disaster, they attacked it from all sides. The machines themselves became dramatically more energy efficient, with deep sleep modes that used a tiny fraction of the power of older models, and they earned stringent Energy Star ratings. Default settings were changed. Duplex or double-sided printing became the standard, instantly cutting potential paper use in half. But the biggest change was a philosophical one. The MFD was repositioned as the bridge to the digital world, not just a producer of physical copies. Scanning became the hero feature. Instead of copying a 20-page document for 10 people, you could scan it once and email it to the whole team. Invoices could be scanned directly into accounting software, eliminating the need for paper filing cabinets. Contracts could be scanned and sent to a secure cloud folder. The MFD became the on-ramp for digital workflows, actively helping to reduce paper consumption rather than driving it. And for the waste from consumables, manufacturers built robust recycling programs. They started including prepaid shipping labels with every new toner cartridge, making it effortless to send the old one back to be properly recycled or remanufactured. But the most profound innovation wasn't in the hardware at all. It was in the business model. Companies stopped buying these massive, expensive machines outright. Instead, they began to adopt what's known as Managed Print Services, or MPS. This completely changed the game. With MPS, a business doesn't own the machine. They pay a service provider a fixed monthly rate and a small fee for every single page they print. That's it. The provider handles everything else: the machine itself, all the toner, all the parts, all the maintenance, all the service calls. This had two incredible effects. First, it made costs completely predictable. No more surprise $5,000 bills because a fuser unit died. It was all covered. This was a dream for any CFO. Second, and more importantly, it completely flipped the incentives. The service provider now wanted you to print less, not more, because their profit was tied to the efficiency of the machine. Suddenly, the company providing your copier was your partner in reducing waste. They would provide detailed analytics showing you exactly who is printing what. They could help you set rules like all emails print in black and white, or jobs over 50 pages automatically default to double-sided. They proactively monitored the machines, often sending a technician to replace a part before it broke, maximizing uptime. The machine itself would automatically order its own toner when it was running low, so you never ran out. The entire ecosystem was redesigned around efficiency, security, and sustainability. The dumb, leaky, wasteful box in the corner had been transformed into a highly secure, eco-conscious, data-driven, and fully managed service platform that was central to the office's entire information workflow. It had not only solved the security and environmental problems it had created, but it had used the solutions to become more valuable than ever. And this is the paradox we find ourselves in as we stand at the threshold of 2026. The very machine that once represented inefficiency, a relic of a bygone paper-centric era, has undergone a metamorphosis so profound that it's almost unrecognizable. It's like looking at a caterpillar and trying to imagine a butterfly. The DNA is the same, but the function, the purpose, the very essence of what it is, has fundamentally changed. So let's ask the question one last time, the question that brought us all here. Is a Xerox machine, or more accurately, a modern multifunction device, still a smart investment for a US office in 2026? The answer is a resounding, definitive, and slightly complicated yes. But only if you completely erase the old definition from your mind. Investing in one of these devices is no longer about buying a box that prints and copies. That's like saying you buy a smartphone to make phone calls. The real investment is in a centralized, secure, and intelligent information management platform that just happens to have a physical presence in your office. This device is the bridge. It's the physical gateway between our tangible analog world of paper contracts, signed invoices, and marked up blueprints, and the intangible digital world of cloud storage, automated workflows, and data analytics where modern business actually happens. But what does that actually look like on a Tuesday morning? Let's imagine a mid-level project manager. We'll call her Maria. Maria arrives at the office with a stack of receipts and signed-off project milestones from an off-site client meeting. In 2016, this was the beginning of an administrative nightmare. Hours spent at a scanner, saving individual PDFs with cryptic names, manually uploading them to different folders, and then creating expense reports in a separate system. It was tedious, error-prone, and a colossal waste of her valuable time. But in 2026, Maria walks up to the central office device. She doesn't touch a button. She simply taps her company ID card, and the screen instantly changes to her personalized home screen. It knows who she is, what project she's working on, and what her common tasks are. She sees a button labeled Project Alpha, Expense Submission. She places the stack of receipts in the feeder, taps the button, and walks away to get her morning coffee. Here's what happens next. In the span of about 90 seconds, the machine scans every receipt at high resolution. The onboard AI performs optical character recognition, or OCR, identifying the vendor, the date, and the amount on each receipt. It cross-references the vendors with the company's approved supplier list. It then automatically populates an expense report in the company's accounting software, say Concur or Expensify. It flags one receipt from a non-approved vendor and sends a notification to Maria's manager for approval, directly within Microsoft Teams. Finally, it bundles the high-resolution scans into a single searchable PDF, names it Maria_Project Alpha_Expenses_Date, and files it in the correct folder within the company's SharePoint site, all according to a predefined data governance policy. Maria gets back to her desk, coffee in hand, and sees a confirmation message. A 2-hour task has been reduced to 2 minutes. That is the new value proposition. That is what you're investing in. It's not about the cost per page. It's about the value per minute of reclaimed employee time. Multiply Maria's experience by 100 or 1,000 employees across dozens of different workflows, from HR onboarding and legal contract management to accounts payable and marketing collateral approval. The return on investment is no longer measured in toner cartridges. It's measured in productivity, efficiency, and employee satisfaction. Now, let's talk about the actual investment model, because that's changed too. The days of a massive one-time capital expenditure to buy a machine that will be obsolete in 3 years are largely over. The 2026 model is overwhelmingly a subscription-based, managed service. You're not buying a machine, you're subscribing to an outcome. This as-a-service model typically includes the hardware, all consumables like toner and staples, proactive maintenance often triggered by the machine itself, and most importantly, the software, the security updates, and the workflow automation platform. This shifts the entire financial equation. It becomes a predictable, scalable operating expense instead of a lumpy, unpredictable capital expense. The service provider is now a partner, incentivized to ensure your device has maximum uptime and is delivering maximum value, because their revenue depends on it. They provide the analytics dashboards that show you exactly how the system is being used, where the bottlenecks are, and how much money the automated workflows are saving you. It turns a piece of office equipment into a data-generating asset that provides real business intelligence. So, who is the competition in this new landscape? It's not just the familiar names like HP, Canon, or Ricoh. In 2026, Xerox's biggest competitors are often pure software companies. You have cloud-based document management systems, e-signature platforms like DocuSign, and workflow automation tools like Zapier or Integromat. These are all phenomenal tools that live entirely in the digital realm. But the unique, defensible position of the modern office device is its role as that physical-to-digital bridge. A pure software solution can't help you with the legacy of paper that still exists. It can't digitize the hand-signed contract that a client couriers to your office. It can't easily process the reams of old paper files your company is legally required to maintain but needs to digitize for easier access. The multifunction device is the on-ramp and the off-ramp for the information superhighway. It's the one piece of the puzzle that acknowledges we don't live in a 100% digital world yet, and provides the elegant, secure, and automated tools to manage that hybrid reality. And the future of this integration is even more compelling. We're on the cusp of true conversational AI integration. Imagine walking up to the device and saying, "Scan this contract, identify the renewal clause, and create a calendar reminder for me 90 days before it expires." Or, "Print the latest sales report for the Northeast region, but only the summary charts, and have it ready for me at the device closest to the third-floor conference room." This isn't science fiction. It's the logical next step in transforming this hardware into a true digital assistant for the physical office. It's about removing every possible point of friction between a human, an idea, and a business outcome. So we come back to the core question. Is it a smart investment? If your office is a digital native startup with zero paper, maybe not. A good scanner and a pure software stack might be all you need. But for the vast majority of US businesses, law firms, hospitals, manufacturing companies, government agencies, schools, real estate offices, organizations that live and breathe in that hybrid world of paper and pixels, the answer is an unequivocal yes. An investment in a 2026-era multifunction device is not a nostalgic nod to the past. It's a strategic investment in the future of work. It's an investment in employee productivity, information security, and process automation. It's an investment in a central nervous system for your company's information, one that streamlines workflows, uncovers insights, and frees up your most valuable asset, your people, to do the creative, strategic, and deeply human work that no machine can ever replicate. The Xerox machine isn't dead, just grew up. It stopped being a box that makes copies and became the silent, intelligent engine powering the modern American office. And in a world of constant change and overwhelming complexity, that might just be one of the smartest investments you can make.